Today, we're joined by Geoff Stone, a senior technical account manager here at US Cloud. Geoff, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, hi Chip. Glad to be here.
All right, man. Tell us kind of just a little bit about the day-to-day, like what you actually do at US Cloud.
So I am now a senior technical account manager, and I am really my day-to-day job is to be an advocate for my clients inside the US Cloud organization. Escalate problems, ticket management, making sure that the account is in good shape, making sure that the experience is at the right level and that we're really delivering the services that they're expecting out of the contract and the engagement.
And obviously, the reason why we're having this conversation is you're in a unique position because you previously sat in that seat. You were previously a customer of US Cloud.
Absolutely correct. Yeah. So my background is that I've been inside the IT industry now for over 35 years. You can probably tell by the color of my hair. I started off with on-site support, just doing break fix around the office. Transitioned from that into becoming an infrastructure manager for the UK. Was that the organisation was the second customer to adopt Office 365 in its conceptual launch inside the UK. I transitioned into becoming the infrastructure manager for North and East Europe. So now I had 9 countries that I was responsible for, and we took Office 365 into all of those 9 businesses. And based upon that, our head office decided that they were looking for a global solution. Then I was invited to join Group IT and start to help build the global strategy at a platform level.
And you kind of glossed over the fact, but you were at one organization for this whole time, right?
For 25 of those 35 years, I was with one organization. As I said, it regularly changed, so it was never boring. It never stayed still. It was continually evolving.
But one would assume if you've been at one company for 25 years, to leave it for something else, pretty big decision. Let's talk about your personal decision to leave Dormakaba and come to US Cloud. So what was your experience with first learning about US Cloud and first making contact with the company?
Yeah, so my last role inside Dormakaba was that I was the service cluster owner for a team that was called Unified Communication and Collaboration. So that involved being responsible for the email and personal information management. It was also a responsibility for our enterprise file services solutions that we delivered and for our collaboration solutions as well. So the challenge really came when Microsoft decided for Dormakaba that it was no longer viable for Dormakaba to continue to use a premier support contract from Microsoft, and decided to insist that Dormakaba move to a unified contract. This was a significant price increase for Dormakaba, and that triggered a lot of internal activities to go and reassess the marketplace. Because of the scope and the size, we were having to look after every country between New Zealand and Canada and multiple in between. And we found that our local providers were great inside the EMEA time zone, but as soon as you're starting to talk about our colleagues from the APAC region or from the American region, then it became a lot harder for them to be able to deliver a service. We ended up talking to Gartner. Dormakaba had a relationship with Gartner from a strategy point of view, and Gartner provided a list of alternatives to Microsoft inside the service space, and we started an assessment. So our procurement process insists that any change of provider, there must be 3 competitive quotes. We reached out to US Cloud and started to explore that as an opportunity along with the other 2. And after we'd gone through the selection process and a scoring matrix, which was weighted on our key deliverables, US Cloud came out in front, and we decided that we would move forward with the first year contract with US Cloud and just see how we got on. And it went very well. So well, in fact, that at the end of year 1, everybody agreed that we would renew for an additional 2 years inside the next agreement. And it was very successful. We had a great relationship with US Cloud. We had a good feeling about the organization itself. Everything was very positive. Everything was dealt with. And I think one of the valuable things from my point of view is that as a client, you were listened to when you had an idea, or if you had any particular problem or hurdle that you were facing, you were listened to. And your voice was heard of the engagement with US Cloud, that we really were getting value for money, rather than with Microsoft, that we were a relatively smallish fish in a massive pond and our voice would have been heard only to a certain degree.
I want to circle back on that collaborative experience in a minute here. So you mentioned the in-depth process that Dormakaba went through to validate the vendors that are out there, which I can certainly appreciate, being from a corporate background myself, making sure you're doing your due diligence and checking your boxes. I'm sure as part of your role as IT services cluster owner, you went through a lot of these experiences where you were evaluating the available budget and looking at service quality delivery and trying to look at ways to improve the business. We hear a lot that when people are looking at US cloud, Fortune 500 companies, they're consistently saying, how is it possible that this company could replace the service provided by the OEM, by Microsoft? Did those conversations crop up? And how did you overcome them and decide, hey, we're going to sign the deal with US Cloud?
Yeah, we looked at the skill matrix was obviously the first key consideration. Were we going to experience a reduction in the quality of an engineer that we would get engaged with inside the ticket? Cost is also another consideration, but cost is only a secondary consideration, because if the service is really not working for you and the engineer is not providing you with the information that you need, then it doesn't matter how much money you're spending. If you're not getting the result, you're not getting the result. Your business is impacted by that. The other one was the 24/7, 365 coverage. That was another real must-have that needed to be delivered by the partners as well. And the other thing that we found after moving to US Cloud that really we didn't see anywhere else is that when you have a problem, and the problem itself or the challenge itself covers multiple different environments, in Microsoft, you would be passed around department by department until maybe you made enough noise that you would speak to 2 or 3 of the involved departments at the same time, that you would come together and work on a solution. The biggest change that we saw is when we had tickets that spanned more than one environment. The engineers within inside US Cloud talk to each other and work together on getting a resolution, rather than, no, sorry, you're in the wrong queue, I'll pass you over. And that is a extraordinary change of experience and time, because usually you're working on a ticket that's impacting your business and your productivity.
Yeah, so it seems like that's almost part of the human condition. Like nobody likes to go over the same work that they've done already. And as part of unified service delivery, there's a frequent occurrence where you have to restate, hey, here's the problem, and you're restating it with multiple different vendors. And so for them, it's the first time that they've addressed your problem, and you're doing it 3 or 4 separate times. It's got to be a maddening experience.
It's a significant difference between the old experience and the US Cloud experience. So what are the genuine concerns that Dormakaba had at the time of taking out the contract with US Cloud? Is it's a big commitment up front. It's a 12-month commitment. If it's wrong, then maybe there will be lots of pushback from within inside the business. But one of the things that US Cloud offer, and again this is unique, is that there's a proof of concept phase, and anybody from our sales team can go through that discussion. So you don't have to go all in. It's not a decision about, oh well, our unified contract is coming to an end and we need a support contract for the next 12 months. You can take a POC with US Cloud, make sure it's the right fit for you before you go and make any further investment at all. And that shows the strength of the product that US Cloud are able to deliver, is that we have the confidence that once you tried us, you will not go back to Microsoft and to the unified experience. So yeah, absolutely. This is something I would encourage everybody to at least explore and make use of. just to verify that it's fit for purpose for your organization.
So you had a great experience moving over from Premier to US Cloud support. And then you make the decision, hey, I'm going to leave this company I've been at for 25 years and I'm going to go over to US Cloud. Since you've made that move, what has been your experience in sort of peeking behind the curtain when you've actually come onto the team at US Cloud?
Yeah, I've probably in quite a unique position with inside US Cloud because I've got a 360 view of what the environment really looks like. So if there's a development that's coming through, if there's an idea that's in place, if there's a way that from a client's point of view that can make their journey with US Cloud and their partnership more tangible, then I can deliver the perspective of not only from a US Cloud point of view, acting as the senior technical account manager, but I can also serve up what the client would view that change to be and give feedback whether this would be seen as a positive or a negative from a client's experience as well. So I can sit in that old role and provide that viewpoint of what's coming down the road from a roadmap point of view from US Cloud as well. And that really, yeah, as I said, that gives me quite a unique visibility because without the clients, we just don't have a business. So, yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, you want to make sure that your clients have the same positive experience of service delivery as you had previously.
Exactly.
You mentioned the support experience being over in Europe. We know we have a little bit of a hurdle to overcome with the name that we have when we're going into market in Europe, that we've got US as the very beginning of the name. We get a lot of people that I see who come in and say, hey, can you actually provide support over in my area of the world, whether it's Europe or Australia, wherever it might be?
For anybody who's focusing on the US part of US Cloud, it's the name of the organization, guys. It's not the hours that they operate. I can absolutely guarantee that it is a genuine 24/7, 365 service that's being delivered into all of our clients.
So there are concerns, obviously, with leaving the OEM for US Cloud. How does US Cloud put people at ease about moving from Microsoft, this huge company, over to US Cloud?
The experience from a Microsoft support viewpoint, where we had the Premier contract, was it was okay, but if the product group was based within inside the US, then there was always the delay of waiting for the product group to come online. It was a struggle to get that engagement. Obviously, the business is frustrated because you're facing a challenge that you can't really get any tangible help with. So that was not great. Sometimes your ticket not only would be sitting in the wrong technology queue, but also sitting with the wrong team in the wrong time zone. The US Cloud experience was completely different. We pick up the phone, it's 7:30 in the morning. We've already had a call in from my leadership team in Switzerland saying this is not working, XYZ. We put a call into US Cloud, and within 30 minutes, I'm talking with an engineer.
Well, thanks very much, Geoff, and thank you for joining us on Third Party Microsoft Support Show. If you want to learn more about US Cloud, you can check us out at uscloud.com. That wasn't great. The European area. I almost said the European theater.
Yeah, that's probably not the best use, especially if you're trying to get to Germany. Yeah.
I've been watching too much Band of Brothers.